In today's show, we have another of our popular Dynamite Conspiracies episodes where we discuss, is the WEF, the World Economic Forum, a Chinese attack on the West?
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasulo and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague Tayo Boya. Tayo, hello my friend once again. I hope you're keeping safe and well.
What the hell, Tony? What you gonna do, eh? Hello, audience. How are you? I hope you've heard of someone called...
You beat me to it.
I hope you've heard of someone called Dr. Isaiah Henry Maia Tamba.
No.
And I'd like to share with you another pearl of wisdom from his book, The Legless Warrior Never Sleeps at Night, 1951. Here we go.
Can you get this book? Can you actually buy it?
Well, I don't think so. I think it's gone out of print. I'm sure it's gone out
The
of print.
Legless Warrior.
Look, it's not in English, man. You can run around looking for the Legless Warrior. You're not going to find it. It's in Yoruba, so you're not going to find it like that. No.
Okay.
I translated it. The strongest blade cannot cut what silence denies. The strongest blade cannot cut what silence denies.
What does that mean? So, okay, let's get this right. Are you translating this book? So it's not in English.
It's not in English.
So you're translating it.
Yes.
So could it be that you're mistranslating it somehow?
And Yoruba isn't all that strong, but I cross-checked with my wife, and I think I'm translating it properly.
Okay, you sure the meaning hasn't been lost as it's translated to English? Because that means absolutely nothing. Say it again. Go on, say it again. Let's try
The strongest blade.
The strongest blade. Yes.
Cannot cut.
Cannot cut.
What silence denies.
What silence
Could she? Can't.
denies. So silence denies. I don't get it.
You don't get it. Whenever you say that, I'm always wondering if you're pulling my leg or something. It's just pretty obvious to me, to be honest. It really does.
Oh dear. Anyway, no doubt you are going to slip that in our conversation.
I will
today.
show it to you. Direct demonstration. I will demonstrate it.
Okay. Well, anyway, in today's show, we are going to discuss, again, this is one of Tayo's, is the WEF, the World Economic Forum, a Chinese attack on the West? Now, you've obviously made this title up. Why do you think the WEF, well, first off, for our listeners who probably, some of them may not know what the WEF actually is, if you could give us a little bit of a couple of sentences of what it is, and then why you think it's a Chinese attack on the West.
The WEF is the World Economic Forum, and a lot of people would probably know it as the conference it is responsible for the conference. I think it's an annual conference that is held at Davos.
In Switzerland.
So people in Davos in Switzerland. So if you've ever heard about Davos in Switzerland and these people, all the hoity-toities, all these kind of oligarchs and whatnot, world leaders also who meet regularly and annually, and they talk about the world, and they come up with plans for according to them, what is good for the world, what is good for humanity, and how best to assist the global community move forward safely, happily, and economically strongly, if that's a good English, which probably isn't. So it is the ultimate body or altruistic body on the surface.
Okay.
Bringing together the rich and powerful to help nurture a better future for every human on the planet.
So, by its very standing, it actually sounds very, very good. So why is there some animosity against it then?
There seems to be a big disconnect between stated goals and actual results, to put it mildly. And when you asked why did I bring the Chinese
China,
into
yeah.
it? Yes,
Why the
okay.
Chinese in particular?
Because when I started thinking about why we were seeing a woke agenda being implemented in the West, it crossed my mind to start to ask, where is this coming from? Why it seemed to be not happenstance, which would be nothing to investigate, nothing to be worried about. Just happenstance. Just like the hippie revolution. It just
Okay.
kind of
Just
happened.
came about, yeah.
Just came about. And you think, well, it just came about, it'll just fade. But this,
So you think this is a
entered
strategy?
exactly. It entered the schools. It did all sorts of things. It behaved exactly like a program, step by step by step. And it was in the films. It was all of a sudden it was in the films. It was in our newspapers. It was in our mass media. It was everywhere. It was just like, hang on. What? And it's not as if we adopted it, because a lot of us were pushing back on it.
Okay.
So I started thinking, where would this come from? And it seemed, and I'm going to present evidence, it seemed to come from the WEF. It seemed to come from Davos.
But China's the second biggest contributor to the WEF. So
Well,
they have,
it's a
and
little
some
more
of the
than that.
major firms are there.
Yep,
So
yep. Yeah.
what have they got to gain if it's China? I mean, America, the US is the biggest contributor.
Mm-hmm.
And China's the second next biggest contributor. So, and because all these separate companies are there as well, I'm still trying to fathom how China.
Well, I've only just started presenting my case, so I'm not
Well,
surprised.
okay.
if I
I'm trying to see where this could go. But go on,
So
carry
we
on.
keep hearing that the WEF is a mastermind of global control. But what if that's the wrong way to look at it, Tony? What if that's not the right way to look at it? What if the real player here isn't the WEF, but China? See, I imagine myself being in China in the 70s, radically different country from what it is today, okay? And they're looking across and they're saying to themselves, we can't actually attack the West. If we do, we'll be wiped off the face of the planet. But some very, very clever bods in China said to themselves, what if we introduce a cankerworm into the heart of their system? I mean, they're decadent. I mean, don't forget, these were communists, and they were looking at the West as being decadent, degenerate capitalists. That was their mindset back in those days.
So you're thinking that they break the West from within.
Precisely. And they needed, what did they need? They needed a useful idiot. And the wonderful thing about a useful idiot is this: the best, most effective useful idiots are the ones who truly believe that they're doing good. They're not out to hurt anyone. It's the exact opposite. They believe that they are, if you like, knights.
Yes, they've got the big S on the chest, and
Exactly.
coming to save the day.
They're going to save everyone.
Yeah.
And they're so useful like this because although they are teleguided, they have no idea they're being teleguided. And what got me going was an article I read somewhere. I've looked for it left, right, and center for it. I know I read it, but I can't find the original article, which I really wanted to share with the audience.
Who penned it?
It was a magazine. It was some newspaper or something, but I don't know which one. But it couldn't have been RT because they don't have a newspaper, but it was some newspaper I was reading at the time.
British Press?
Probably not. Probably some American. Strange that I hardly ever read British. I don't know why. I live in Britain. I hardly ever read British.
Okay.
The British press. And this I think it was a commentator, and he wrote. He said that the original money for the early meetings for the organization itself, although it was set up in Switzerland, because that's where it's headquartered, although it was set up there, actually the money came from China.
Okay.
And then at that moment, I went, that's what to me. I had this kind of moment, this light bulb moment. I went, really? And then I started looking into it. For example, look at the pattern. This is the main pattern. And by the way, I'm going to send you a whole host of links. This is the very
We'll
first
share
one.
that with the show, the blurb in the show.
This is the first one I'm going to send you. It's from World Economic Forum on Wikipedia, but it takes you straight to a heading called criticism, and it talks about all the criticisms that various people have against
the WEF.
The WEF. This particular one is this. Look at the pattern. The WEF pushes policies that, in the end, cripple Western economies, weaken Western cultural cohesion, and thereby hand China the strategic advantage. But it doesn't affect China. You said China is the second largest organization within the WEF.
Yeah.
But they reject all the identity, politics, and everything that the WEF
of course.
Proposes. And
So does India and other places.
Unfortunately, I think the Indians, they I don't wish to be rude to our Indian cousins, but they're not really players, okay? They get played with other than they don't play, they get played with. They're not important here. They're not relevant to this conversation. I'm going to present what I consider to be strong evidence that the Chinese teleguide the WEF and the WEF helped to bring down the West. Now, here's one thing. I can't prove what I'm going to say because who would? If it's such a dastardly conspiracy, they're not going to leave breadcrumbs hanging around everywhere for a numpty from the Midlands to come and go, yeah, look, obviously not. So I insist that nobody should expect that kind of level of proof because it wouldn't make sense for it to be there.
Okay.
But
so this is just your musings.
It's not really musings. It's like what I always say, follow the spoor.
Okay. You've said
for
that
example,
on a number of occasions. Yeah,
yes,
go on.
Follow the spoor. Follow the clues. For example, we know, and this is from Reuters, that there are elements of the Chinese society that what's his name, Schwab?
Schwab, yeah.
Yeah, what's his full name though? Carl Schwab?
Carl Schwab.
If you want to call him the head, I don't know what his actual, his actual title is, but I believe he's the head honcho over the WEF.
Mm-hmm.
He openly admires the Chinese system.
Okay.
Hang on, I said.
So you think it, just to summarize very briefly so far, you think Charles, what's his name? Yeah. Schwab. What's his name? I can't remember his first name. He's being teleguided by the Chinese.
Yes.
But in what way? He's a billionaire in his own right.
He has been teleguided by being given an opportunity to play the big man on top. Okay. And to enact policies that, by the way, I believe that he believes are good for the West. I don't believe he's a baddie in his own head.
Right.
So I think he's a dupe. I don't think he's a conspirator.
Right.
I think he's a dupe.
Okay.
I think that when you got people telling you, oh man, you're great, you're wonderful, this is fantastic, and then the only thing that could have saved him is to say, if I'm so great and I'm so fantastic, why aren't you guys doing what I'm saying?
But don't you think, remember, the WEF is made up of a heck of a lot of companies and governments. Mm-hmm. So are they all being duped by this quick hand by the Chinese? Are they not able to see through this charade of what's happening?
It's like this. You quietly you quietly fund them, you flatter them, and you let them believe that they're in control. And why would they then, if they swallow that, if they swallow those pills, they got this money, they can jet around on big private jets and whatnot, and they can act all big and important and everything. And what they say, people are listening to them, hundreds of press, and the cameras are clicking and everything. You start thinking that you're something.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know whether this should be a Dynamite Conspiracy episode, because it sounds like it. To be perfectly honest, the people at Davos, they're not actually implementing. The people there, like Schwab, he's just basically facilitating an event with a group of influential countries and organisations. Mm-hmm. He's not actually setting the policies. So no matter how much money China may fund the WEF and his running, and he could be in limousines, although he's got his own money anyway, you think that they're not actually implementing anything directly themselves, because the countries and organisations at the WEF have to take what's been discussed and choose, and that's their choice, whether to implement some of the things that have been discussed, because it's not mandated.
So
this
if
is
you
a collection of companies. It's not a mandate. You must do what has been agreed at the WEF. That's not how it works.
Okay, so DEI, as an example, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, for an example.
Equality and inclusion, yeah.
What did I say?
Equality. You said equity.
Okay, diversity, equality, and inclusion. Yes, which, of course, those of us on the other side of the argument laughingly called didn't earn it. That came along, and we are seeing companies get so deeply embroiled in pushing DEI that they're actually harming their own companies into dire straits. Case in point, Disney. Disney's producing films that nobody wants to watch. They're losing money hand over fist, and they don't seem to want to stop. Even the stockholders don't seem to be saying anything, and they're getting a lot of money. Well, not enough to cover the losses, but they're getting a lot of money from companies like BlackRock and other big players within the WEF. These things that seem to be coincidental. I'm saying it's always this following the sports. You always find, and that's kind of weird. Oh, that's kind of weird. Oh, that's kind of weird. But for this kind of weird, we're pushing all these green policies. The West is avidly pushing green policies. Annalena Baerbock, if you know who she is, she's the Green Party so-called what is she? Foreign minister. I don't know if that's actually Germany.
Right.
Annalena Baerbock. I mean, if I called her a nincompoop, I would be insulting nincompoops. It's not fair on nincompoops to call
her a nincompoop. She's degrading the term.
Yeah, it would be degrading the term. I think nincompoops would have very strong cases against me. Say, what are you doing, man? It's not good enough. Okay. She is one of the apostles of green energy, of WEF, of this entire globalist agenda. And basically, she has been instrumental in the industrial, along with the Chancellor, of course. Chancellor, what's his name? Kohl? Schultz. Who the hell is Kohl? Schultz.
Chancellor Kohl was ages ago, but yeah,
okay. So she has been instrumental in deindustrializing Germany. You see the effects. You see that Volkswagen is having to pack up and move to America. So I think other companies too. There's this chemical company. Is it BASF? I can't remember what it's called. This huge chemical company. They're packing up. They're heading off to America. They're actually having to. They're deindustrializing. Now, you and I, anyone with 2 or 3 brain cells will go, whoa, this isn't working. We have to stop this. Instead of which they're doubling down. And it's like, where are you going with this? what is your ultimate aim? And it's just, the ultimate aim is to be green, irrespective, if that's good English, irrespective of what happens to Germany. There are a bunch of people like this. Maria Callas, I believe her name is.
I know, but you're picking on the Greens now. I mean, this
No,
is
no,
just
no,
one
no.
policy,
I mean,
but,
Maria Callas is not Greens. What, she's in Lithuania somewhere, one of those blooming Baltic states, what they call the Chihuahuas. She's like that. The Chihuahua states are so annoying.
Why are
They've
they
got no
called
power.
the Chihuahua states?
No, because they make a lot of noise and they've got absolutely zero power. I mean, I think a battalion of Russian troops would take over all three countries. Just,
yeah, they're small, aren't they?
They are small.
Yeah.
And yet they're so noisy. We're going to teach Russia a lesson. You are going to teach Russia a lesson?
I know, but because they feel so hard done by, it's you know, they've been the victim for so long, been occupied for so long. Now they've got their freedom. They're going to be boisterous, aren't they? Because they've finally got a voice. So yeah, they shouldn't be quite as, maybe perhaps as aggressive.
Exuberant, I think is what you're looking for. Well, don't forget that one of them, was it Estonia? Which of them went ahead and recognized Lithuania? Sorry, Lithuania went and recognized Taiwan, and then the Chinese were like, "Are you bonkers or something?" And then they cut them off, and now they're going crawling back to China. And we're very sorry. Well, what did you think was going to happen, you dumb schmucks?
bit like Canada with when they got Trudeau said something about the Chinese. Did you remember this couple of years ago?
No, what was that?
Yeah, something happened and he accused China of hacking them, and they had a big conference and no one agreed with him. You'd have thought that the US, this is Trump's first term, you'd have thought that Trump would have jumped the bandwagon to bash China and agree, but they didn't. So they were on their own.
You just find yourself as just you versus China. Like, okay, this is not a good
Hold
place
on,
to
this
be.
hasn't worked out quite as we'd expected.
No.
You thought it would be unifying and obviously.
That is exactly what the Lithuanians thought. They thought the rest of the EU was going to come on board. The rest of the EU is looking at the bank balance and going, yeah, nah. But well done, you guys. Well done. Stand up for democracy, yay! We've got your back from all the way back here.
Anyway, go on.
So
we digress.
You might say to me, I think you did actually say that this is a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, it sounds like a conspiracy.
Very good. So I'm ready for that, and I'm going to say so. Okay. Now you have to explain why WEF policies just coincidentally always benefit China. Let's have a look at them, okay? What always benefits China? Okay. So there was this.
But you remember, policies are not mandated. They're not all. You know, you said that they benefit China, so they're implemented by everyone else, but not China. Therefore, that's how it benefits China.
Yeah, and you would say, why is China such a big part of this organization if it never implements
what it's implying it should do?
Why are we? It's ordinary common sense.
It doesn't make sense though.
If you had been there and I'd been there, we'd have stopped. We'd have said, "Hang on a second, we're harming our own economies. China isn't."
Yeah, but
either China comes on board.
You and I, we're not the most.
No. I'm saying, if people like us were in Davos, we'd be saying that if China is not on board, if China's not going to implement these same policies, it puts us at an unfair disadvantage. So why would we then go ahead? And yet the West is going ahead. I'm saying the West is going ahead because people are being paid to go ahead. I'm saying that what we got there are shills, right? You got the dupes, the Schwabs, the people who think they're doing the right thing. And then you just got the people who are just quietly pocketing money and making sure they've got a wonderful retirement plan.
Yeah, but they've got the money anyway. This is the
no.
whole point.
The bigwigs have got the money, but the bureaucrats, the politicians, they're just lining their pockets because they're there for 4 years or 8 years, whatever it is, and then they're gone. Now, obviously, we can't get into anything that's going to lead me, because I'm the one speaking, into libel. And there's no but here, but into libel. It would be interesting for people to have a little think about what's going on in the EU now and who's in trouble in the EU at the top of the EU vis-a-vis vaccinations. I just leave it like that. I have to be very careful that there's somebody who is in big trouble.
Yeah, that's to do nothing with the, well, just to clarify, it's not the vaccines themselves, it's fraud in the background.
Yeah.
It's handshakes behind
procured.
closed doors and things, and money changing hands at
And
top
I'm saying
level.
that is a symptom of someone who is at the top of the hierarchy, top of the pile, lining their pocket, and I'm hiding the gender of the person too. So hiding, so
Yeah.
these people, politicians, they're there for a while. They got to make the loot whilst they're at the. I'm mixing up my metaphors.
Top table, yeah, we're at the
Whilst
top
at the top table. So you go into Davos, you're sitting down with billionaires, you're sitting down with big people, and there's a decision made that, look, we're going to push this agenda, okay? And you get to be sitting on the board when you leave office, you're sitting on the board of such a thing, and this is going to be your salary. All we need you to do is to ensure that this policy works. And then you get these people coming out like, evangelists and apostles. And it's all, what is it? It's all like that very old saying that there is no, hell hath no fury like a vested interest parading as a moral principle.
Indeed.
Yeah. So I'm saying that if you follow the money, China doesn't have to own the WEF. It just has to fund WEF-aligned projects through corporations like Alibaba, Tencent, and Huawei. That's all it has to do. It doesn't have to control the WEF. It just has to say, here's money for green projects in Wales. Boom. There's the money for it. We go ahead, we do it. But at the same time, you say, hey, we want green projects in Wales. Let's just drive at 20 miles per hour in Wales, which is a real thing, by the way.
Yes, I know. Mind you,
Right?
they're reversing that, by the way.
Yeah. So when they were doing it, it was like, that's not gonna work, guys. I mean, people have got places to go. Okay, you can't be crawling around at 20 miles an hour. No matter what the planet is doing, it's like either are we going to walk? Is that it? Or are we all going to start working from home? What are you doing here? Because I got 50 miles to go, and if you work it at 20 miles an hour, that's going to take me yonks.
You see, I'm still unsure about this because this is all speculation,
It
very
is
little
all.
evidence.
There is not going to.
Look, there's 300...
Excuse me. I'm 20 minutes. I'm 20 minutes into my presentation. You keep interrupting me every.
But I've got to say this. I've got to sort of counter what you're saying because there's 390 firms, 60 countries. They're all being influenced by this one, and the policies are not even mandated. These are some big institutions.
And it spreads out like a cancer. Cancer starts out with one cell, isn't it? A cancer in the body starts out with one cell, and then if it's not handled properly, it kills the entire body. That's how cancer spread. This is a social economic cancer. It's a political social economic cancer. So 360 whatever it is bodies you said.
390 firms and
so
60
call it 400.
countries.
Okay, fine. So 400, 500, whatever it is, 450, whatever. It's enough if they've got the right influence. If you're talking about BlackRock, for example, for goodness sakes, how many?
Do you know what? They weren't mentioned as one of the people there.
Sorry?
Strangely. BlackRock were not one of the ones mentioned at the WEF.
So what about
the American
people,
companies? You've got people like tech giants, Microsoft, Google, JP Morgan Chase. You've got the big banks, big IT companies, but BlackRock was never mentioned. Now, that doesn't mean they're not there. They just want to keep their profile low. But out of 390 firms,
Miriam Staubisang.
Who's
that? Yeah. No, did you say what? That's very rude.
I don't know who.
Who is that? Oh, what?
Who? Sorry.
She is head of BlackRock Switzerland and is a major contributor to WEF's agenda, focusing on sustainable investing and its impact on financial well-being. You don't need the company there, you just need its head honchos. And let me send you.
Now, if you said to me as part of this episode, the the WEF is being teleguided by one said company that we've already touched on. I would take more credence from that than the nation state of China.
Good.
Even though
That's what the Chinese want you to do. That's exactly what they want you to do. You are actually, I think President Xi Jinping would hug you and kiss you if he could, because that's exactly the mindset he wants. Oh yeah, nothing to do with us. Look the other way.
So companies like, Google, Microsoft, JP Morgan, people like Siemens, Daimler, Volkswagen, BP, HSBC, Unilever, to name but a few, they would all be hoodwinked.
Well, they want to do business in China. They want to get along with China. They want to get along with everybody else in the room. They just want to be part of the club. Again, they're not thinking that this is harming anyone. A lot of them think they're doing the right thing. I think they all think they're doing the right thing. Again, you got to get into your head that what is so fantastic about this conspiracy strategy is that these useful idiots think that they're on the right side of the table. They're not trying to be evil.
So what? They're on the right. In what capacity? Are you just talking along the DE line, or are you talking along other in quotes policies? Because policies are not made by the WEF. They're made by governments, and governments.
So the WEF crystallizes the ideas and sells them to the government. Well, actually sells them to the people in the room, and the people in the room go back and sell them to the government. And a lot of these people, in America, for example, the oligarchs run the show. They fund the right people. You're running for office, and you want donations. If you're not towing the party line with what the WEF wants, you're not going to get the money, and you're not going to win. And your opponent will win, the one who's towing the party line. Here in the UK, both sides of the party go to the WEF, so it doesn't even matter who wins. Tories go, the Labour go, everybody goes. I think even Nigel Farage, goes.
Nigel Farage has been, yes.
So it doesn't matter who you vote for. It's wonderful.
I know this sounds great, and it sounds like it's a possibility, but to me, this is, as a conspiracy, because this should be a conspiracy show, let's be honest. This sounds too far-fetched, too fantastical, and it just feels
Let me ask you a killer question. By the way, I sent you the link for the Miriam
Staub Bissang. Yeah, I've just opened it. CEO of, in Switzerland.
The next thing I want to say to you is there's a simple question for you. If the WEF were truly neutral, why has it never criticized China, yet constantly promotes policies that undermine Western sovereignty?
Now, obviously, I'm not familiar with the policies per se, nor why the WEF would criticize anyone, to be fair. Do they criticize the United States, for instance, as part of their decision making? Do they?
No,
I'm not privy of this because I'm not at the WEF forum. So how do we know that there's criticism going on and the WEF are doing it, but none of it is aimed at China? How do we know that?
Because they
don't even
criticize.
They don't even write the notes from the WEF.
Well, isn't okay. So
do you know what I mean? The WEF is sort of done in secret, isn't it? They're not. No,
it's not. Their claim is not secret. It's just that they have what they call closed door meetings, which is secret. No, but
it's secret, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, it's not, because they then tell you, well, this is the decisions that we arrived at. It's just that when they're speaking amongst themselves, they think that if other people can hear the conversation, people would be less willing to be frank. So they speak behind closed doors, and then they come and tell you what the decisions are. So from the point of view of telling you what decisions have been arrived at, they say that it can't be secret because we're telling you the decisions we've arrived at. You see what they
Yeah.
So it's a so you've made a good point, and I'm going to address it shortly. I've sent you yet another link,
You
which
sent me
is
that one again.
sorry.
The World Economic Forum. You've sent me that one.
Again. Oh, damn it. Okay. Never mind. Okay.
Because you sent it the criticism one, but that was still.
I actually.
took me to the
Okay. I'm really loving my thingy, by the way.
Your thingy.
Which
What's that?
I know.
Elaborate for our listeners and
Not
viewers. What's the
even
thingy?
you probably wondering what the hell the thing is.
Yeah, what's the thingy?
I'm loving my Obsidian.
Oh, Obsidian. You haven't got any shares in this product, have you?
It's free, I think.
Free. Oh, okay.
I'm
And it's
not
a
even-
note-taking app, or organising your notes and musings. I take it.
Yes. You're right. It's the same one, but just a different. It's a different part
Section.
of the section.
Oh,
But it's
I
okay.
see.
But
Because
it's
my
okay.
one just went to the front page, so it didn't go to the bit that you were saying. When you sent me the first one, that wasn't the criticism.
sorry.
It was actually the. It was actually the front part. So before my esteemed friend and colleague comes back after having a major coughing fit, we've spared you. We've spared you cough. That's why I always have water. Always have water. Yes, have water handy.
Will tickle in my throat there. Okay, so where are we? Right. So now, okay, that particular one. Have the policies. Have you say? They say that the WEF doesn't. Who does it attack? It attacks like fossil fuels. Okay, we shouldn't be using fossil fuels. We should all be using green energy, so on and so forth. We need net zero policies. That's something that they're very strong about. Net zero policies.
Yep.
Correct? All right. So who builds more coal plants than any other nation?
China.
Have they ever complained about it in the WEF? No.
We don't know that though.
Oh, well, we do know that because they've never complained about it. Here's the link. I hope I'm going to make absolutely certain that, yeah, it's not taking you back to the same.
Oh, I see.
It's not
Okay.
going to take you back to the same thingy. Here we go.
Well, again, we'll share this. We've got loads of
Oh,
links
yeah,
here.
we've got
so,
loads of
yeah,
them here
We've
this
got
time.
loads for you. Once you sent it to me. Okay.
That's from Reuters.
It's Reuters. Okay. So
Yeah.
fairly fair. So, like, okay. Now, if Reuters... So is Reuters in this article complaining about China's coal putting the climate at risk? Yes, it is. There you go. The title is actually saying that. Coal power approvals rose, putting climate targets at risk. So Reuters is criticising China
Yep.
in this article. So you're saying in the WEF itself, even though we're not privy to what's been said,
No, we
you're
didn't
saying
I said they published the, the decision.
published. Well, of course, they're not going to. In fact, they're not even going to criticise individual countries or. I mean, who? Where? I'd love to see the published reports actually name and shame companies. I doubt that very much. So you saying they don't criticise
In
China
the opposite,
for their
not only do they
stance?
not criticize China, but then they go ahead and say something like this, which is from their own website. They do have a website, by the way.
The WEF, yes.
Yes. And this is what they say. That in 2025, at the Davos meeting, 2025? Yes, I think it was very early in January. First week of January. Or
Continuing
so.
importance to global growth. Yeah, okay, that's the title. That's only recent. But this is just China, okay, is transitioning from its traditional model to a different one. I'm aware of this, and a green transformation. Now,
Yeah, that includes more coal.
well, it doesn't.
green
It doesn't. That's to get.
I
to
mean,
a
they are
certain
actually
point.
building more coal thing. They buy more coal, and they've just told America to naff off because of Donald Trump's 50, 25, whatever it is, percent.
It's only
tariff.
10% tariff on China.
Whatever it is.
It's
And
25 on Canada and Mexico.
and then they've told America that to put 15% on gas, LNG and coal. So they're going to have to be buying their coal from Australia and Russia. Now, they're not shutting down their coal mines and saying, "Oh, we're not going to be doing coal anymore."
But they're at the forefront of electric cars and the electric car industry.
Electric cars, it's not solar, so you have to plug it in.
I know.
And when you plug it in, someone's got to be generating that electricity.
Well, it depends on how that electricity is generated.
Yeah.
Although, have you heard recently? This will put an interesting twist on things. Sorry to digress slightly, as you mentioned, coal-powered stations. They've actually managed to get plasma at a bit more stable because they reversed its polarity. I mean, I'll be honest, this is way beyond my
was it 1,000 seconds or something?
Well, way longer because they reversed the polarity. They were able to stabilize it for longer, and it didn't take as many resources to stabilize it for longer. Because of
basically, you're talking
polarity.
about the fusion. What's it called now?
Fusion, it creates plasma.
Fusion nuclear reactors.
Well, it's not
energy.
It's not. Yeah, it's fusion.
Fusion nuclear power, right? So the thing about fusion is that it's totally clean.
Yes.
If we can get it to work, it's absolutely clean. But the thing is that up until now, you've always had to put in more energy than you get out of it, which of course, as a power station theory, is kind of crappy.
Good. Because actually, they've managed to got a net gain.
But this time,
of quite a bit. Actually, they were surprised.
This time, the sustained. I thought it was 1,000. I'm sure it was like 1,080, 1016, something like that. Seconds. They were able to maintain its stability, which is the longest ever, and get more energy out than they put into it. So this is
just this week. It's about 10 times that. And
it's gone up
more
again.
Stable. Yeah, and they've got more output from it. And they say that this, by reversing the polarity. Now, don't quote me here, but by reversing the polarity has allowed a better stability of the plasma using less resources, so that they can sort of think ahead, thinking, okay, the power plants, which is the biggest obstacle, creating these things cost billions to actually put one together. But they're now saying that they may not need that much because this reversed polarity plasma is more stable at lesser condition. It's easier to be managed. So that would reduce the price of the power plants, make them more viable.
It won't even matter. If your fusion is working, it hardly matters how much it costs to.
Well,
because you will get your money back.
You will eventually, but that's a longer return. Whereas if you can get a power station built and constructed in a shorter time period, you're going to make absolutely huge amounts.
Yeah, someone's going to nuke China. And I wouldn't be at all. Someone would nuke if China got it to work. Someone would nuke China.
No, it's not China who got that to work. No. China didn't get that to work. No. What I'm saying is, this was revealed. It was done in strangely enough, in Spain. Spain have got it. Spain have managed to do it because Spain just recently have said they've had a goal of trying to put themselves on the map in order to.
Spain is going to get nuked. Anyone who tries this mess is going. Look, do you know what? If it was China, I thought, Russia and America would just get together and say, I don't know what these Chinese think they're doing, but they're trying to spoil the party here. Look, guy, we're going to nuke them. Now it's just good old space. Are they insane? You can't do that, man. Everybody's world is going to, even the Saudis are going to be like, we're going to develop nuclear weapons just so we can nuke the idiots in Spain. You can't do that.
It would be
do that, man.
It would be a game changer if they managed to do it. But yeah, they're ahead of the curve in Spain.
All these people who think they're sitting on mountains of gas and oil. Overnight, they're just there. Yeah, water. Thanks.
No.
Nothing.
There'd still be you know,
For
there's still
cars,
be
well, would they really? Because everybody would then hop onto electric cars. Because actually,
you can
you probably
produce
just
electricity
ban
for free. Yeah.
you just ban fossil fuel cars because electricity is just basically very close to being free.
Yeah.
Uh, no, man, you got a lot of oil shakes and people who are going to be like, yeah, no, nothing. Huh? What's
Well,
it called
anyway.
again? Fusion.
Yeah, sorry to diverse the
Nuclear
conversation
fusion.
slightly, but yeah, because that would make all those power stations in China defunct if they get this off the ground.
Breakthrough.
But we shall see. I'm not sure it's happening anytime soon.
In
Still
Spain,
very
did you say?
early. Yeah, Spain.
In Spain, nuclear fusion in Spain. Nuclear fusion. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think the Chinese have done something too, but maybe I was wrong. I just assumed it was in
Spain ahead of the curve.
Well done. Well
I
done,
know,
Spain.
well done,
Okay.
Spain. So yeah, they did actually say that they were going to change their view as far as that. They wanted to become a player rather than just a user of the raw materials. They wanted to utilize some of their expertise and bring it to the forefront. And clearly it's happening. Whether they succeed, as you rightly say, there could be some issues where people's money is being affected because of oil, as you know. But we'll see. We'll see. A bit like that when we did a conspiracy show about the guy who invented the perpetual engine or water-powered car or something.
He died, didn't he?
He died, yeah, just as his invention was becoming to the fore. He mysteriously died, which tends to happen. Although this is more state-sponsored in Spain, so slightly more, power there than an
There's
individual.
this thing called stakeholder capitalism, which has been developed.
Yeah, this is stakeholder. This is at the WEF, where I'm aware of this, and obviously this is one of the big criticisms where they're saying that the companies themselves that are at the WEF should play more leading role, but then that takes, it puts the companies too far ahead of the curve. They're like, hold on a minute, democratically elected governments have the say. It shouldn't be up to the companies to lead the way. So I can see where the criticism comes from. But innovation, direction, new industries all come from the private sector and big corporates.
I know what you're talking about, but does the audience know what you're talking about?
Okay. Yeah, this is the WEF had got a big thing where they want companies to, the term they use is stakeholder capitalism, where they promote that the corporations should focus on creating value for everybody, not customers, employers, communities, rather than just their own profits. And so that's their goal. So it sounds very altruistic that companies that come along to the WEF and wider should have a more community emphasis. But as I've just touched on, it can be viewed negatively because, these companies are then doing it, even though they are on the surface looking like they're doing things for the community, and they're getting justification and maybe sweeteners in order to put these things in place, when in reality they're further forward in their own commercial interests, really. So it's lip service, but they get the better deals, the better contracts, the better situations in the countries that they operate in order to fulfill this stakeholder capitalism remit that they've been asked to fulfill in order to be great for the community, when in reality it's just to fund their pockets.
Who's not implementing it? The companies in which country are not implementing it? I have no intention of implementing it.
Go on, enlighten me, because I don't have that information. China again.
Not part of that at all.
But stakeholder capitalism, that could be because It's capitalism, and this gives companies the freedom or alleged freedom to be more, take the upper hand. Now in China, because of the regime, that would never be allowed anyway. So you can see that never taking off in China, because that's not how their system works.
It's a very comfortable excuse for the Chinese. Yeah, that's not how we do things.
Yeah, well, it's capitalism. They don't do capitalism.
It's
a controlled capitalism.
It is a controlled capitalism, but it's still people trying to make money. It's got billionaires, haven't they?
Yeah, but it's all sanctioned from the government.
Have they not overtaken the number of millionaires in America now or something?
No.
Not really?
No.
Okay. Well, they've got loads of millionaires. So
they have got loads of millionaires. Okay. I mean, there are more billionaires in North America than anywhere else.
No, I say billionaire. I know there are more billionaires in America.
I don't think China would allow many billionaires. It's like, who was that guy who was making a lot of noise?
Very unwisely.
Who no longer is making a lot of noise.
They just called him for a chat, didn't they? I know who you're talking about. Tony something, wasn't it?
Oh, he was head of some big company. Alibaba? Yeah. Was it Alibaba?
I think it was. I believe you're right.
Yeah.
And he was making a lot because he had money. So he thought he could make a... And then they called him in for a chat.
And now we haven't heard of him since.
This money of yours, man, you can all disappear overnight.
I know. So this idea of stakeholder capitalism wouldn't wash in China anyway. So that's like
they could if Xi Jinping wanted it to. If the not just him, but the Communist Party of China, if they were on board with it, yeah, they could absolutely do it. What's going to stop them?
Yeah, but think about it. They don't want that. Capitalism is...
They don't. That's what I'm trying to say, that they're actually funding things that they know don't work, but they're happy to fund it if it's going to be in the West. This is my entire thesis.
I'm still not convinced. I think you're seeing a couple of pieces, maybe loosely, and you're creating the other pieces in the jigsaw, of which aren't really there, and you're fragmenting a thesis based on very flimsy evidence or none whatsoever.
Well, I get none.
Okay, very limited evidence.
There's a pattern. All we can look for is a pattern. We can't look for evidence. This is a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy that's been going on since the early 70s. It's not going to be evidence, just lumps of gingerbread leading back to the house of President Xi in Beijing or wherever the hell he hangs out. It's not going to be there. But you keep seeing patterns. You keep seeing something else that fits the pattern. Here's something that fits the pattern. Feminism. Where are we now? Oh, hold on.
That can't have been sort of created or seeded from
Shaping
China.
an inclusive global economy by scaling impactful corporate DEI initiatives.
Who proposed that?
Well, it's there. That link there, as you can see, is from the WEF forum. That's actually in the output.
That's another one. Let's have a look.
Yeah.
So this one here, shaping an inclusive global economy by scaling impactful corporate DEI.
Yes, shaping an inclusive global economy. Guess who's not participating as part of that global economy? Guess what country is not participating in that? China.
Yeah, but
China.
America isn't now, is it? Look, since Trump's got in, he's tore up the rule book. Now all federal government in the US have to scrap all DEI initiatives.
Yeah, but there's a limit. Actually, it's interesting, but there's a limit to what the federal government can do in America.
I know. It's federal government that's only that this applies to. The state governments can carry on doing what they want.
And there's even one funny state which absolutely is talking nonsense. It wants to go its own way. It started making a lot of noise about, California. They want to be independent. Yeah, they want to be independent. Okay, well, take your huge deficits and be independent. Let's see how long you last.
Well, Texas have said it twice as well.
Well, Texas actually they run the economy very well. They can actually make it, but I don't think California can.
it's a bit stupid. I think there was provisions in place to actually prevent that, ceding their membership of the US. It's not a club. No. It's
the WEF promotes mass migration, diversity quotas, and anti-meritocratic policies. China doubles down on nationalism and masculinity. It's not going the same way as the people that they're supposedly in cahoots with.
Yeah, but the thing is, as I've said again, this is not mandated. These are suggestions to.
But we've seen the suggestions being implemented. So it's no point saying it's just suggestions.
It's suggestions. Whether people choose to implement it, it's up to them. But China
and it's happening here to us
in
Britain. It's happening in Europe. It's happening in the West. It basically is happening in the West. From Canada, Australia, it's happening in the West. It's just not happening in China. It's happening in other places, little by little, but mostly in the West, which I argue was always the Chinese target. That's my point. I know this is going back to the same old URL, but it's a different
place in that URL. Yeah, go on then. We'll share it again. It's fine. If it's backing up what you're saying, and this is all on the WEF's actual pages.
No, this particular one is back to this Wikipedia. I don't think I'm really going to send it to you. I'm going to have to find the sent. Well.
I mean, okay.
I want to. What I'll do instead is how.
We
have I given you the take decision Wikipedia? Well,
my esteemed friend is reading live on air, trying to find this document.
I'm trying to find a document because it's the same document as the others, but this is the text to look for, so that you just jump straight to what I'm talking about.
Oh, I see. So still in the weforum.org website.
Still in Wikipedia.
Oh, in Wikipedia?
Yeah.
Okay. So what are you searching for? Oh, how DI was foisted on us.
So.
Okay. And this is the WEF DI.
Again, yep. Why does the WEF push social policies that weaken Western culture while China outright rejects them? Who benefits from this imbalance? I'm saying.
It's an interesting viewpoint, but I'm just sort of flabbergasted, I suppose, where no one else has actually picked up on it. Other countries, other big corporates are all present. We've mentioned the numbers already. Why have they not commented on this? Why do they all think that it's a great idea? Do they not have people who make decisions?
They do not all have the benefit of an ultra rationalist, don't believe anything you hear, esteemed friend and colleague like me. Because no matter how hard you try, you will find that the strongest blade cannot cut that which silence denies. You can't do it. It can't do it. Doesn't matter. Okay?
You got it in there. You got it in.
It can't happen. Your silence will not deny. Whatever it happens, your blade can't cut this, that is in here. Can't happen. See?
I mean,
you got to listen to Dr. Isaiah. You got to listen to Dr. Henry Isaiah.
I mean,
let's move on, because you're going to tell me any second now that we've come to the.
We're very close to the top of the hour.
There's another one. Now, we've got. This is. Oh, come on. Where is this? Excuse me. Economic out. This is the digital ID and social credit systems. Dr. Klaus. Is it Klaus? Klaus Schwab.
Klaus Schwab. Yeah.
He loves this.
The digital.
And this is the one thing.
What is
digital
it?
ID.
Digital ID.
Which is one of the things that China's authoritarian model is being promoted by WEF.
So they have already got this.
No. They would love to promote it. They're trying to. But there's kind of like a lot of pushback from.
Oh, so people are pushing back on it. They don't think it's a good idea.
No, of course you don't think it's a good idea.
No, but then why? You see what I mean? None of this is mandated if they disagree. And clearly, If you're saying that China have something that Klaus Schwab wants to promote, but the other companies and nations are pushing back, go, no, we don't want to implement that. But China is more than happy to implement it, or has already done so, because they are not in a capitalist environment. They
They're playing the long game. They're playing the long game. Right now, it's probably better for them if we don't implement it for them and we continue this slide to the bottom. But when we approach the bottom, in order to control, exert control, then they can issue these digital IDs and so on and so forth. And let's not forget that I believe you and I, we had a discussion about this because Britain wanted to introduce these things, or they're still going to try to introduce them. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah? Where did that come from? WEF.
Yeah, but there's already
Smart
IDs.
cities.
But there's already IDs that are used in most parts of the world.
Yeah.
This is one of the reasons why, well, as was cited, that why we get so many people trying to cross the channel to us is because we don't have an ID system. So they can literally disappear into the, and hide in plain sight almost, because there's no need to have to present who they are for certain things. Whereas we have to turn up and present who we are by, what do we have to get? We have to get a bill or a driving license. It's not even consistent. Whereas all other countries, they have an ID card. So, this digital ID is just the next version of an ID system. I mean, we use ID systems, electronic ones, as a passport. That's the same. That has a chip in it. And that's an ID, a digital ID, and that's when you're traveling abroad. So
why do WEF policies align perfectly with China's authoritarian governance structure instead of Western democratic values? Why isn't the WEF fighting against this? Why are they fighting for it? Again, it's like...
I mean, okay, look, I'm mindful of the time here because we do need to wrap up. I mean, you're making some good points here. I'm actually being swayed. I was quite adamant. I thought this is a bit far-fetched. This is not something that can seriously be true because China have an influence on the WEF. It's unlikely. This is a bit of a conspiracy. But you've made some interesting arguments there, and I certainly think that there is some possibility or credibility into some of the things you're saying. It does sound a little China top heavy. Granted, they're the second most, contributor financially to the WEF. But now what you've said, that they're seriously not participating in quite a number of these things, seems to beg the question, why are they there? The whole point is to be part of
that is the point.
That's
what I've always said. Well, if you're not participating in it, how come you're one of its major cheerleaders?
Yeah.
It seems to be a little dicey. And this one, we've got Western leaders are dupes. They're not co-conspirators, which I've already mentioned. I'm talking here about Trudeau, Macron, and Ardennes, people like this. And finally, I think you can help me out here. The Great Reset.
Yes.
The Great Reset. China doesn't need to control the Great Reset. It just needs to benefit from its consequences.
Yeah, the Great Reset was a term that's obviously been widely shared from the WEF because Klaus Schwab said the world needed to reset based on COVID-19 of the consequences that came from it. Obviously, we know what happened worldwide, but people have jumped on that as if it's some reset of society being influenced by the WEF, and so a lot of conspiracy theorists have jumped on that and used it as ammunition to bash the WEF. I'm not, again, sure that that's right. There's personal opinion. I think it's just people twisting the language. Although you have raised some valuable points during our show today, the Great Reset was just something that people have jumped on and bashed the WEF with, but that's a separate
So
issue.
my closing statements is that the real question isn't whether the WEF is a co-conspirator with China. That's not the question. The question is whether the WEF is being used by China to push policies that cripple the West. So the evidence, in my opinion, speaks for itself. That's where I'm at. Klaus, that's his name, by the way. Klaus Schwab He's not a villain. He's an idiot.
Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you've loved this episode, please hit subscribe and stay tuned for more deep dives into prophecies, mysteries, and the unexpected twists of fate. You've listened to Tony and Tayo, and we are the TNT Talk Show. But unfortunately, we have reached the end of the show for another week.